Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's our Ukrainian Russia-China show. My name is Sasha Star. I would like to introduce my special guest for today, Ivan Kucherenko from Kyiv, Ukraine. Welcome to the show, Ivan.
Hello, Sasha. Hello, everybody.
Hi. So lately, the most tragic event happened in Ukraine, in the city of Vinnytsia, where dozens of innocent civilians, children, were killed by Russia, and Vinnytsia is so far away from the front lines that this is really amounts nothing as a terrorist act, pure and simple. So Russia is becoming really a terrorist state. Ivan, you have presentations you would like to show to us?
Yeah, I have a video which our team made about this issue yesterday.
Excellent.
Поражена военная часть в Гайсине, Винницкой области. Крылатые ракеты долетели до целей. Россия наносит удары только по военным объектам. В доме офицеров в Виннице находились ВСУ.
Прилетела в дом офицеров, так что сказочка про очередной торговый центр опять не прокатила.
На жаль, під час ракетних обстрілів частина нашої команди знаходилася на головній площі. Всі вони ранені, двоє зараз борються за своє життя в операційних. Звісно, всі виступи і концерти скасовані, і ми молимося за життя всіх, хто сьогодні постраждав.
Very tragic event. Obviously, there was no military installations of any kind. Maybe one theory is that they were aiming at something else, and because their missiles are not accurate at all, so they hit this place. It's in either.
No, Sasha, not in this case, because actually when they were shooting missiles like old Soviet X missiles, they are really not so precise, but in this case they attacked with the caliber missiles, which are their modern naval-based ground missiles, and they are very precise. They have error distance like 3 meters. So someone on that particular Russian submarine put into that particular missile coordinates of the downtown of Vinnytsia. There is no military objects at all. I've been in Vinnytsia, and this is the downtown of the city. And you were right when you told that Vinnytsia is a small, peaceful city where a lot of people from Kyiv, from other Ukrainian cities, like to come and to have a walk, to relax in that city. And the house of officers, which were so happy that they've bombed the house of officers, is actually a concert hall. It's old Soviet house of officers, which was transformed into the concert hall. And it was supposed to be a concert of Ukrainian singer that day. You've seen her on video, and all her team was in that building and near it preparing the concert. And 2 guys were injured, and 1 guy who was actually 25 years old, sound engineer, he died yesterday. So,
Yes.
and no military objects. And this is actually a particular act of terrorism, because they shoot exactly to the civilians in the center, in the downtown of Vinica, by very precise weapon, by a precise rocket. And there is a very simple explanation of that. Yeah, thanks to the modern Western artillery, thanks to those rocket systems HIMARS, during last 2 weeks, Ukrainian forces attacked and destroyed numerous warehouses, command centers, more than 30 real military objects of the Russian army. And they're very angry about it, and they wanted to punish Ukrainians, to terror the population of Ukraine, in order for them to become afraid of the terror and to go to President Zelensky and ask him to stop this war, to accept the Putin's requirements, to withdraw Ukrainian troops, to give Russia our territories. But instead of that, Ukrainians became more and more angry, and they are so angry on Russia. They're so angry not just on Putin, and not just on Russian soldiers and officers who actually shot that missile and shot other missiles on Ukrainian civilian apartments and other objects. They're angry on every Russian who is actually happy about that, because we've seen the reactions of regular Russian citizens in the social networks, and they're happy that that their powerful Russian weapons hit those damned Ukrainians who are not going to give up. And this is just so ridiculous that that every single Ukrainian hates every Russian, and they will hate them for many generations.
I totally agree with you. What happened is, of course, it wasn't my idea that they were aiming at some military installation and made a mistake. No, it was Russians who were saying and pretending that they made a mistake. But knowing how accurate these missiles are, so let's go a little bit backward. So somebody in Moscow had to make a decision to bomb this Palace of Officers in Vinica, gave the order to the commander of that submarine in the Black Sea, and of course he complied and shot this missile. So what do you think are thinking these generals, or whoever gave the order from Moscow to do this, killing so many civilians? What is their aim? I think you're right. They're trying just to terrorize the Ukrainian population. I think their method of war, actually, there is nothing new. They've done that in Afghanistan. They've done that in Chechen, first war, the second war, in
Syria.
In Syria, Aleppo, right, absolutely right. And actually, Second World War, when you remember in 45, well, you don't remember because you're too young. I also don't remember because I haven't existed yet. But my father ended the war in Berlin in 1945 on May 9th. So they were doing absolutely incredible atrocities, as I said many times. 1.5 million German women were raped, and those who were for Hitler and against Hitler and didn't have their own opinion, all of them. That's what I always call collective responsibility. What do you think about Russian people collective responsibility for what is happening right now? Because this is going beyond anything. Even I read books about all wars. I love reading about history. But what I read, even Chinggis Khan army never had that level of atrocities what Russians are doing in Ukraine. No
Yeah.
army in the world, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
It's-
My opinion and opinion of a lot of Ukrainians is that every single Russian is responsible for the atrocities and for the civilian victims in Ukraine because they're supporting that war. And Russians, when there were actually some discussions about in the beginning of that Russian invasion, when some Ukrainians and I myself, we tried to convince some Russians to do something and to stop that war. They responded with the propaganda narrative about Ukrainians who bombed the poor population of Donbass for last 8 years. Yeah, and they've claimed that Ukrainians did nothing to stop Ukrainian Nazis from bombing the poor population of Donbass for the last 8 years. But the problem is, first of all, it were not Ukrainians who bombed the civil population of Donbass, and it was proved several times that Russians actually shelled the civil population on Donbass from one part of the city to another part in order to raise that level of anti-Ukrainian thoughts and anti-Ukrainian behavior in the society of
do
the
you
Donbass region. And actually, the answering your question, the issue is that Russian did nothing for 20 years when Putin is a president of Russia. They actually did nothing to prevent this war, and they've lost all their chances to elect someone other, to put Putin back from his throne, actually by some kind of revolution or maybe in some other way, but they did nothing. And now, because of they did nothing, they just some of them were just sitting and looking on what's is going to happen and what is happening in Ukraine, and others, they are really happy that Russian soldiers are killing Ukrainians. So it's a collective responsibility of every single Russian about their atrocities, and they will have to pay for it for generations. After the
Ivan,
end of the Putin,
let me
they
ask
will have
you,
to pay for it.
what's your view on there are a lot of people in Ukraine who are Russian speaking and who their parents spoke Russian at home, so obviously they learned Russian as their first language. And of course, they are all being exposed to Russian culture, such as, let's say, music, Tchaikovsky or Rimsky-Korsakov, or the writers, say, like Pushkin and Tolstoy and Gogol, although Gogol arguably could be also a Ukrainian writer as well. But let's leave that aside for a sec. How then you would explain what should be Ukrainian policy toward all this phenomena of so-called Russian culture? What's your opinion?
Ukraine was not against the Russian culture, actually, and from one side, it's a very big mistake of Ukraine that for 30 years we had no official policy towards the Russian culture and the Russian language, and of course, it made easier for Russia to invade Ukraine in 2014, to annex Crimea, and to invade Ukraine this year, because some percentage of Ukrainians who are really tending towards Russian language and towards Russian culture, they recently they actually believe Russian propaganda as well, because Russia is using all the channels, including the cultural ones, to spread their propaganda. And you can just have a look on the Russian movies which they've aired during last years. They are all full of propaganda. Even Russian cartoons. And what is very funny is that when we have a Hollywood movie in Ukraine, we can I think only for last 5 or 6 years those Hollywood movies are being translated to Ukrainian language. Before that, they were translated only to Russian language, and it was allowed in Ukrainian cinemas to broadcast these movies in Russian language. But after the invasion of Russia to Ukraine, or maybe even before that, I actually don't remember exactly, Ukraine adopted a law according to which all movies in Ukrainian cinemas should be translated into Ukrainian, voiceover into Ukrainian. And when we, for instance, see these movies in the cinemas, and after that, when sometimes you want to watch this movie again, and you find it on the internet with Russian translation, you hear very different translation of the same English sentences into Russian than into Ukrainian. Ukrainian translation is exact,
Like English.
gives the exact sense which was in English, but in Russian version, they are translating their movies using the propaganda narratives. Even
Absolutely.
Hollywood movies, they put propaganda in this translation, and that's why there is now a very popular joke in Ukraine when you ask somebody about which language does that person know, and he or she answers, of course, I know Ukrainian, maybe English, and they want to forgive Russian. That's the real issue with a lot of Ukrainians and with me as well, because I just want to remind you that I was born in Lugansk, actually, and I've lived first 20 years of my life in Lugansk. I've studied in the Russian school. I've learned Ukrainian almost as the second foreign language,
Right.
like the English one. And I've had all my family speaking Russian language, and now I personally and a lot of my friends, a lot of fellows, a lot of other Ukrainians, we started to speak Ukrainian, and we don't want to have any similar with Russia, with the Russian language, with the Russian culture, and that's the opposite effect actually, which Russia got in Ukraine. They've invaded Ukraine, and they've said in their official propaganda that they want to protect the Russian-speaking population of Ukraine, to protect the Russian culture, because it was being destroyed by Ukrainian Nazis. But nothing was destroyed in Ukraine. We had and we now actually have a possibility for everyone to speak the language he or she wants. And those who speak Russian, they can continue speaking Russian, but it's a personal belief of people who who are really angry, who are really angry in Russia because of their atrocities and because of their invasion to Ukraine. That we started to speak Ukrainian, and we are trying to forget the Russian culture, and to stop listening to Russian music, to stop watching Russian movies, and etc. etc.
Ivan, I have my own theory about this phenomena of Russian culture and music and literature and everything else. In my opinion, it doesn't belong really to Russians. It's become part of the world arts and music and literature. And I want to bet any money that Dostoevsky, his works are being studied in Western universities here in Canada or in Europe, United States, doesn't matter, much more than in Russia. I can tell you, if you will take this Russian army, ask how many people read Dostoevsky, there will be zero, there will be none. How many people of them listen to Tchaikovsky's music or Rimsky-Korsakov or Glinka or just anybody? Zero. So it fact that great Russian culture, literature, and music have nothing to do with today's Russia and its citizens, soldiers, generals, whoever they are. They are completely out of it, and they have no rights to insert that it's their culture, it's their music or literature. So none, they have no rights, and they never heard there is a Russian music, and they never read any piece of Russian literature. I can bet any money on that. Now, speaking about languages use, I noticed a very interesting thing. Of course, because of this war, unfortunately, I'm listening to a lot of KYIV shows, talk shows, or not even so much. It's just, for example, a conversation like we have now between you, but they use either Ukrainian or Russian languages. But what is interesting is that the both, for example, there are two men or two women, men and women show, they immediately very effortlessly going from Ukrainian to Russian and then from Russian to Ukrainian, and in the same program you hear like both languages are being used, and at that point I would say they have no mistakes. They're using fluently and very well both languages. And it's even very hard to say what is their first language, Ukrainian or Russian. They are fluent in both, really. That's what quite amazing.
Yeah, I can give you a small secret that a lot of Ukrainians know Russian languages much better than majority of Russians, because
I would agree.
the majority of Russians they don't have any even higher education
Yes.
comparing the percentage of Ukrainians who got the higher education, who got at least a bachelor's degree in the university, is much higher than in Russia. And in Russian, a big part of population, they've just finished the high school, or like the 9 classes of the school. It means that they just in the senior school, finished the senior school in the United States. And actually, another aspect of the Russian culture is that Russia actually stolen a lot of great artists, a lot of great persons from other countries which were conquered by the Russian Empire.
Absolutely.
And those great Russian artists or writers, most of them they are Ukrainians, or they are from Belarus, or they are from other parts. And actually the Soviet Union was called Russian Empire before it, and later the Soviet Union was named as the prison of nations. That in
Yes.
modern Russia there is more than 60 nations but they don't have any their national attributes. Before Russia, their policy is to clean every national attributes of the nations they conquer, and to make everyone in every nation in Russia like Russians. There is no such nation as Russians at all. Yeah, we've discussed it previously, because Russia was formed by. It's actually not a Slavic nation. It's like a mess of different nations, and they're naming themselves Russians, and it's very funny when some citizen of St. Petersburg, which probably is a Slavic person, names himself Russian, and some inhabitant of the Siberia, some Buryat, names himself Russian, and they are saying that they are of the same nation. They are Russian, and they are Orthodox, for instance, Russian. So
But
it's just some kind of a fun house, yeah. And,
you see, the national politics of Soviet Union was never clear at all. Lenin, for example, he was attempting, and in fact, when he gave Ukraine its so-called nezalezhnost and independence, and Lenin believed that Ukrainian nation is different from Russian and deserves to have their own republic and their own statehood and so on. Now, Putin 100% disagrees with that. He believes that, oh, no. Ukrainian and Russian people are the same people. It has to be all part of Russia. And lately I've heard that he now has a grandiose plan to have one a big state considering Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. The all three Slavic nations, it all has to be one country, and that's what he's trying to do. But I think he's a little bit cuckoo in that respect.
Mad, yeah. He's an old mad guy with some imperialistic ambitions, and actually, it was his big dream to enter the history as a new Russian Tsar who restored the might of Russian Empire.
Yeah, next to Peter's great number 2.
Yeah. Who gathered all former Russian colonies and all the territories which Russia lost after the end of the Soviet Union, which he considers a biggest geopolitical mistake, as he said. Catastrophe. But actually, he will get into history just like a war murderer, war criminal, and he will be judged in every way. Neither he will be alive or he will be dead, but he will be judged, and every single Russian in time, maybe not in several years, but maybe in some decades, they will understand what Putin actually did, how he destroyed Russia, how he put Russia from civilized world into some kind of barbaric state, into Middle Ages actually, and they will curse the Putin for that, like he is now being cursed by every single Ukrainian and a lot of people in the world for his war crimes. So that's actually what he get instead of being a hero in the books, in the history books of future ages. He will become a villain in every history book. And
anyway, Hitler now has a tremendous competition from Putin. And
Yeah.
considering that Hitler was in power, 12 years, Putin is in power already more than 20 years. So this is much more tragic for Russian people. And he's planning to stay in power for another foreseeable future. No, he never say where enough is enough. No, he wants to continue to rule Russia. And I'm wondering if he will lose this war. Hopefully it will happen soon. I'm expecting in 2-3 weeks a huge advance. Although, you must say people don't understand one thing, that they're waiting until counterattack, at least in the south. But it's already underway. You know that Ukrainians already freed more than 40 cities in Kherson's region. So
Yeah.
the counterattack is on, and now with HIMARS in place, I think Russians are not so happy about this development. In fact, I think it's about mostly because of HIMARS. Putin took a pause in war development, and he has some big meeting in his Duma and Senate today. I don't know. Maybe they will come up with the total mobilization. I don't know what they're going to do today. But obviously, there must be a reason that
he's afraid of total mobilization, because when the last Russian Tsar announced the total mobilization, actually the revolution happens in Russia, and regular people who Tsar gave weapons, they've just killed him, and that's how Soviet Union history began. So Putin knows the history of Russia very well, but probably he knows the history of the world very bad, because every single dictator in world history, every villain in world history, in the end lost everything.
Well,
like Saddam Hussein in Iraq, like
absolutely.
Hitler. And
that's why the Putin loves to watch movies, and one of his favorite movies is a documentary by the name "The Last Days of Gaddafi," and that's what Putin would like to avoid. Now we'll see if he is successful doing so. Ivan, thank you very much for your input. I think next week we'll have great news about the further developments of Ukrainian heroic armed forces. Slava Ukraini! Героям слава! Thank you.